Hello, good morning, friends, and you're welcome back to the channel. It's always beautiful to have you here, and we continue to discuss our concepts in science. Today, we are talking about Indole Test. Indole Test, and this is one of the tests. Remember, we are talking about biochemical tests, the way we use different biochemical tests to identify different bacteria in the laboratory, which is core to what we do in microbiology. Now, today, we are talking about the Indole Test, and the Indole Test is one of the tests that is used in a battery of tests that we refer to as the IMVIC tests. Now, many times there's a family that we call the Enterobacteriaceae. This family is a unique family that has Escherichia coli, has Shigella, has Salmonella, has Klebsiella, all as part of this family. Now, many times we need to differentiate the different members of this family one from another. And a very good test to use, we have a battery of tests that we call the IMVIC battery of tests. That is Indomethyl red, Vogasproskase, and citrate test. Now we'll talk about the Indole test. And the Indole test is a unique test. It's a test that looks at the presence of an enzyme called tryptophanase in bacteria. Now, like I told you before, I said many of these biochemical tests, what they work on is the fact that they check if there's the presence of a particular enzyme in a bacteria, or the bacteria is able to use up some special sugars, break down some special sugars, maybe fructose or sucrose or lactose, for its own activities. So this is important to note. Now, it's important to note that in this particular test, Indole test, we're testing for the presence of tryptophanase. Now, tryptophanase is an enzyme that is present in some bacteria, and tryptophanase has the ability to break down an amino acid called tryptophan. So, the amino acid which this enzyme can break down is tryptophan, and the enzyme is tryptophanase, and the test is to check for the presence of tryptophanase in bacteria. So that's a simple test and explains to us simply what we're doing. So you have a process where you prepare a tryptone broth. This tryptone broth, when you prepare the tryptone broth, then you inoculate with the bacteria of interest. Now, when you have the bacteria in the broth, the bacteria usually functions to break down tryptophan into indole, pyruvate, and ammonia. Indole, pyruvate, and ammonia. Now, when this reaction occurs, it's difficult to we may not be able to detect whether this bacteria has been able to break down tryptophan or not, that's present in the broth. So we need to add a reagent that we call Kovacs reagent. Now, when we add this Kovacs reagent, the Kovacs reagent has a color change. It has the development of a red or pink ring. When you see a red or pink ring being developed within the broth, that tells you that the tryptophan that is in the broth has been broken down, and this is now detected by Kovacs reagent. So you have tryptophan, which is a type of amino acid. If it is broken down, it's broken down into indole, pyruvate, and ammonia. Now, the presence of that indole can be determined by the use of the Kovacs reagent. So I hope you understand it very well. It's a simple test, and it's a well-used test in microbiology for us to identify our Enterobacteriaceae, our bacteria from the family of Enterobacteriaceae. And so, just as I said earlier, a simple test, you can outline it. What you are looking at is for the presence of your tryptophanase in the bacteria. And like I told you, the question is, this bacteria, does it have this enzyme or does it not have the enzyme? If it has the enzyme tryptophanase, that means that bacteria will be able to break down the amino acid which we call tryptophan. And if it can break down this amino acid, it will break it down into indole, pyruvate, and ammonia. And if it breaks it down into indole, pyruvate, and ammonia, you have the Kovacs reagent, which helps you to detect for the presence of the indole in the broth, in the solution. And it does that by developing a pink or red ring. So this is really important for us to know. It's important in microbiology because it helps us with diagnosis. It helps us to be able to, and also indole is an important part, an important compound for what we call quorum sensing, which we've discussed in some earlier videos. Bacteria have the ability to speak to one another, to call to one another, to rally each other up together to be able to form a community, to form what we call a biofilm. So for all of this to happen, the indole is a sort of a signaling substance, a signaling compound. So it helps. That means if a bacteria is able to secrete indole into the environment, it helps to call out to other bacteria so that they can come together and form a community so that they can be more formidable against their adversaries and against their opponents. So this is the simple discussion on our indole test, a very important test in the INVIC battery of tests: indole, methyl red, Vogespriska, and our citrate test. So we'll talk about them one by one. We've talked about the indole test. Next video we'll do is methyl red test, and then VP Vogelprosperous test, and the other test. Please keep tuned and remember to like, subscribe. Let us grow this community, and do have a wonderful day.